Lyndsee has graciously agreed to speak to our class this morning. She's the director of children's ministry. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself and her family and tell us about the wonderful things that are happening in the children's ministry. Thanks for coming.
Okay. Oh my gosh, have you heard a word I said? Okay. Whoa, that's a lot feedback. Okay.
She turned it down.
Is she working on it?
Okay, now we're good.
Okay. So my paternal grandfather is actually from Prairie Grove, Arkansas, which is about 90 miles from here. But he and his family came to Placerville probably, I feel like it was during the Dust Bowl, but I could be wrong. And I was born to Amber and Greg Sizemore. They were 20. This is going to fall off again. I'm so sorry. I will just...
If you'd rather have the hand mic, we could do that.
Probably. This is going to... I'm so sorry. It's going to be a... Yeah. This little buddy doesn't want to stay.
They're distracting you. They can be difficult.
Okay. Here we go. Is it on? Okay. Thank you. This feels... Okay. There we go. I don't want to be distracted. And so my parents were quite young when I was born. They were 20. Let's see, that's my mom there holding my baby brother and little Lyndsee. And then that's my brother Zach and me. I certainly see my children when I look at those photos, those little round faces. And then my dad and my brother and I at my brother's wedding, and then my little sister. So I have a little sister as well. So that's our gang. My mom stayed home. She was a stay-at-home mom, but did do a daycare out of our home. So I was always surrounded by children. And then my dad worked for the local electric company, PG&E. Probably they have made headlines many times over the years, so most folks know who they are. But my grandfather did that his entire life, and then my dad followed in his footsteps. So a very blue-collar, hard-working family. My parents took us to the local community Baptist church, Pollock Pines Baptist Church, and we grew up going there twice on Sundays and on Wednesdays, vacation Bible school. And then when I was 7 years old, my parents separated, and they separated for 3 years, and then they got back together for 3 years, and then they divorced. And at that time, we were still at the Baptist church. I had just been baptized. It was our whole world. It's like what I knew as family and faith. And when my parents divorced, that all went away. So it was 1994, and divorce wasn't nearly as prevalent then, and it certainly wasn't accepted within the Baptist church. And so as a 14-year-old girl, it was very shocking. Like, what happened? This is all we knew. Very disoriented. And at the same time, the man who pastored the church and who I had known my entire life and who baptized me came forward to the congregation and admitted that he had a gambling addiction. And then he was never heard or seen from again. And so in my 14-year-old brain, this started to form a narrative. The men who really matter in your life just kind of go away, and they can't be counted on, and they can't be trusted. And that would start to translate to Father God. And the church is just really not a safe space. So by the time I was 18, I was like, Christians can't be trusted either. I'm out. I'm going to go do my own thing. And I had seen a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of things. My first boyfriend was part of a very religious family. And what happened at home behind closed doors did not match what happened at church. There was a ton of emotional and physical abuse that I was privy to. And so it just helped to sort of solidify that narrative. Like, wow, these Christians do not mean what they say. There's a lot of hypocrisy here, and this just feels really unsafe. So I did what any wise 18-year-old would do. I moved to San Francisco and said, peace out Christianity and church, and I'm going to go live my life. And I sure did. I had a lot of fun, and that's a really good place to do it, let me tell you. And so I was in San Francisco. I started working in the restaurant business when I was, 16 years old. By the time I was 22, I was promoted into management, which was a horrible mistake by those in charge. I was 22 years old and didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I was managing a $3.5 million profit restaurant each year and 35 people working underneath me. And I was so clueless, but what a good way to learn. Trial by fire. And so I stayed in the restaurant business until 2011 and managed like high volume, fine dining. And oh man, what a boot camp for just working with people from all walks of life and all different backgrounds. I had employees from Tibet, from all over South America. I mean, so many different walks of life. It was truly a gift to be able to work with so many different people groups. But then in 2011, I got injured on the job. I thought it was pretty just regular old injury. I fell on the stairs. I tore a tendon in my ankle. And I was like, no big deal. We'll do surgery. 6 weeks later, I'm back to work. I mean, this is the mind of a 29-year-old, right? But that injury triggered what's called complex regional pain syndrome. So it is a defect of, I believe, the sympathetic nervous system. So essentially, my brain got stuck in the on position and has just told my body ever since that it's in pain. So my body just fires pain signals. And I live in chronic pain. So I lost my job. I was not able to work. I wasn't cleared to work. And so that just started a whole tailspin of events. I decided to leave San Francisco and move back to Placerville, my hometown. I needed family support. I needed some healing, both physical and emotional. And I thought that would fix everything. I would just leave San Francisco, move back home, and I would be good to go. But that wasn't the case. Years of just sort of trauma and running from all of my pain just sort of built up, and I suffered from great depression, and all my horrible mistakes caught up to me, and I was desperate. I just didn't know where to go. And so my mom I have a mom who prays, which those are the most dangerous women on the planet. I'm convinced. Mothers who pray will wreck your life. So I had a mom who prayed, and she was just like, I've been praying for you. You need to give your life back to the Lord. I know you don't want to hear this, but just go get your butt in a seat at a church. Just do it. Try it. Just try it. And it was Easter Sunday, 2013. I was 33 years old. Been running from God since I was 18, and so I finally got my butt in a seat, bright orange plastic chair. What a horrible choice for a church, but I got my butt in that seat, and it was the first time. It was non-denominational. It was a pretty seeker-friendly, big church, but very geared towards community outreach. It was the first time I think I understood what Jesus really did on the cross and what it was for, and that his unconditional love was for me exactly as I was in that moment, as broken and messy as I was. He was still for me. And I just got it. So I rededicated my life to Christ that day. I've never looked back. But I was so broken. I was like, I need Jesus. I know he's in the four walls of this church. That's all. He's here. He's here in this church. So I just need to come here as much as I can to be with him. So I did. I showed up to everything that church had. I was just like, hey, it's me. Here I am. God's here, right? And I just got super involved. I did a lot of lay counseling. They had pastoral prayer partners, and people could make an appointment and come during the week. And it just ignited something in me. So at 33 years old, I decided to go back to college. I'm the first person in my family of origin that graduated from college. I got a bachelor's in psychology. I went to William Jessup University. It's a Christian school in California, Christian liberal arts university, and it was amazing. It was really an incredible time and a great education, and I loved every second of it. And it's funny, when you get a psychology degree, nobody tells you how much healing you're going to get yourself as you're going through the program, and you're having these professional counselors as your teachers, and you're learning all this language and what you're feeling. And I came out of that program just feeling totally new. And I mean, of course, the work God was doing as well. But so after I graduated in 2017, I walked into a brand new coffee shop called Kingdom Coffee Roasters, and I saw this hunk of a man. And he was making my coffee, and I was like, who's this guy? I'm going to keep talking to him. And I did keep talking to him for about a month, and then he finally got up the courage, after a lot of prodding, to ask me out. So William asked me out, and after our second date, he called his mom and said to send the grandma's ring. This is the one. And 3 months after our first date, we were engaged, and 7 months after that, we were married. I was tricked because I didn't realize until probably our third date that William is a native of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And he made it very clear on that third date that he would be moving back to Oklahoma once he got married and started having kids, but it was too late. I was in love, and I was like, okay, I'll move to Oklahoma. And at that same time, I had graduated school, and I had been a part of a church. I left the church that I came back to, and I started going to a church that planted in 2014, and I went on their fourth weekend. It was a church called Jesus Culture. They were big. They'd been around for a long time, but they hadn't actually had a church. They had a music label, and they had a band, and some of you may know their songs. And so they finally decided to plant a church in Folsom, California, which was right where I was living. So I started attending there, and I started to volunteer in the children's ministry. That was the only volunteer spot that would take me. So I was like, here we go, back to kids. And I volunteered in the twos classroom every single week. I just loved it. I fell in love with it. I had always kind of worked with children. I had babysat and nannied, and I had just been around children, but I loved the sense of community that I got by not only volunteering with the children, but walking alongside families. I got to know families in a really significant and profound way. I had a little boy in my class who was 2 years old, and unfortunately, he drowned in his family's pool in a very tragic accident. But I got to be with his parents in that grief. I got to come to their house and bring them a meal. His mom is one of my best friends. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding. And so those sort of relationships are just really transformative and so impactful. And I just was like, I'm not gonna ever leave this children's ministry. I love it here. And I showed up so often that I worked myself into a job. And so eventually I became the children's pastor for the 0 to 5th grade, the younger children, or 0 to 5, the younger kiddos. And then I was promoted to the director of children's ministry, and I did that for quite some time, and then about 5 years. And then we got pregnant with our first, David, that little handsome brunette there. He is spunky as all get out. If you've met David, you know what I'm talking about. And right before I had David, they said, hey, do you want to transition out of children's ministry and move into our pastor of small groups and community? And I said, sure, I would love to do that. Like, small groups and community would be wonderful. And then COVID happened, and we were literally isolated in our homes, especially in California. There was no small groups or no coming together. But we figured it out. We did a lot of groups online, and we pivoted, and it was so challenging, but here we are. And then at the end of 2021, William and I felt like it was finally time to leave California. Things had kind of calmed down a bit in the sense of COVID. And so we packed up our little family and drove the U-Haul across with no jobs and nowhere to live other than his parents' house. So we landed in Broken Arrow, and I was working really hard to find a job, and so was William, but I just kept getting closed doors because I was trying to leave ministry. I wanted to do something in like the nonprofit social work sector, and I had lots of jobs I could have, jumped in for $12 an hour and overnight shifts, and I was like, that's not gonna work with my family. And so Will got a job managing Starbucks, and I didn't have to work, so it was just a huge blessing. So I stayed home with David, and along came Benjamin in 2023. He was born August 15th. And we had a feeling we were going to get a redhead, but we were hoping we wouldn't. And so when we had David, we're like, whew. And then we had Benjamin, and it's red as red can be. We love the hair. The skin is just a challenge. So there they are. And I just want to be honest with you all. I don't want you to think this is what life is like all the time. So here was our real life. There's the two boys flooding our bathroom. William and I were having breakfast, and we heard water just coming down the hallway. And they had flooded the sink. Here, I was not feeling well, so I was trying to lay down, and Benjamin decided to just sit on my face. That's his favorite place to sit. His brother locked him in our kitchen cabinet. He was trying to get out, found some frosting, and then they turned the vehicle on. They turned Dad's car on, and we're getting ready to make a break. Yeah, so this is real life at the Renfrow house, just to be very honest. But of course, I always find time to snap a picture before in the midst of disaster. I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna want to remember this later. But they make life so beautiful, so colorful, so fun. We are loving every minute of it. No, that's a lie. We love most of it. So, I was not looking for a job. I had no intentions of going back into ministry. Very transparent. COVID was really hard in ministry life. The church I was a part of just made a lot of decisions that were based out of fear, and it just, it was really taxing. And so I left pretty beat up, and I was like, I'm done. That was fun. That was a fun 5 years. Thank you. Next. And so we were here just living the stay-at-home mom life. We were a part of Cornerstone Church. My husband grew up going to Woodlake Church, and he was part of their large youth group. And he met Daniel Pease and John Odom there, and they have been lifelong friends. And so John Odom pastors Cornerstone Church, so we're like, we'll just go there. So we were there, but we were, David was really struggling in their children's program, and it was becoming really difficult to justify continuing to go, and it was becoming really hard on our family, but we had put some pretty deep roots in. We were co-leading a small group. We were, they have a homeschool co-op group I was a part of once a week, so we were in. And so, as I do, I just keep pushing forward. I'm like, it'll be fine. And then I check Facebook one day, and I have a message from a Denise McKinney. And she said, hey, we're looking for a children's pastor. And Ashley Pease threw your name in the hat. I had met Ashley in 2017 at our engagement party. And we had dinner one time with them after we moved, but that was it. And she just remembered I was a children's pastor once upon a time, and she just mentioned my name to Denise. So Denise slid into my DM, so to speak, and said, would you like to grab coffee and explore? And I was like, Will, what do you think? And he's like, well, it's a free cup of coffee, just go. And I'm like, okay, I'll go get coffee. And so Denise was like, so what are your career goals? What are your career aspirations? And I'm like, I don't have any. None. I don't know what you've been told. I'm just a happy stay-at-home mom. But Denise and I sat and talked for 2 hours, just a little bit about our faith journeys, and that was the start of something. So I left that conversation, and I told Will, I'm like, I think we're in trouble. I think our lives are about to change, but I'm not sure yet. Let's just keep taking one step at a time. And so then I met Kevin and David, and I was like, yeah, we might really be in trouble. This is sounding too good to be true, but let me keep checking it out. And then I interviewed with the search team. And let me tell you, even when I heard about the search team and the process and what they were doing, I was like, that is so intentional. Nobody does that. Churches don't do that. To have these 8 people who are invested in the church, who are invested in the children, who really care, come around and want to know who you are and if you're qualified, I was like, that really says something. It was intimidating as all get out. I was like, I better take this job because I'm working my booty off to prepare for this interview. But when I met the 8 people in those rooms, I was just blown away by their kindness, their authenticity. They're incredibly smart. And just, it was a conversation. It wasn't an interview. It was just a dialogue. I was just so at ease, and I just felt really heard and welcomed. And that was it. That sealed the deal for me. I was like, I'm going to take this job. So here I am back in ministry and honestly loving every second of it. And I look back and I'm like, there's a reason God didn't let me get a job in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I had tried so hard, and I was just like, why? I've never not been able to get a job. I'm qualified, I promise. And I believe it was just leading me up to this moment so I can be here. And am I okay on time? I'm okay. Okay.
15 till.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so teaching philosophy and values. So I believe there is no junior Holy Spirit, right? So the same power that raised Christ from the dead that lives in us also lives in our children. So our children are very capable, wise, intelligent little beings. And I believe we should treat them as such, that their voices matter, and I want them to know how much they matter to God. And so that's really what I want to instill. I want to make space for their questions. I want to make space for their doubt. I want to give them room to just voice their little opinions and know that they matter and we're hearing them. I think I pastor the same way I parent, and that is I want to be the kind of children's pastor that I wish I had growing up. I want to be the same kind of mom I wish I had growing up. So how do I do that? I mean, that's the question I always ask myself. Like, how do I be the pastor, the voice I wish I would have had in church? And if our kids don't learn anything else, the one thing I want them to learn every single Sunday, God is good, and he loves you unconditionally no matter what. God is good, and he loves you no matter what. I will say that over and over again because I think that is the most important thing, especially for our little 5 and under, to walk away with. God is good and he loves you no matter what. Creativity, messiness, and play are a huge part of what we do back there. I am not afraid of noise or paint and Play-Doh and all of that. I know it can be taxing on my volunteers, but I think creativity and artistic expression is a really important way for us to encounter God. He is the creator, right? So if we're not creating, I think we miss out on an aspect of his nature and how we interact with him. So I want to make sure we always have some sort of element of creativity in all that we do. And then the core values of the church are also the core values for our kids, but in kid language, right? So we're working on trying to take, theological humility. You say that to a child and they're like, huh? So it's like, we don't have all the answers, and questions are okay, or radical hospitality. Kindness matters. So taking those values, putting them in kid language, but making sure that even our youngest are walking those out and living them out just as we are. Okay. And then growth. Okay, so Wednesday nights, when I came on in September, the Wednesday night children's programming was essentially childcare for the adults who were participating in choir practice and those who were volunteering for youth or had anything else going on in the church on a Wednesday night. So they would see about 8 to 10 kids. And it was actually my first week on the job. Denise was like, hey, you want to jump into Wednesday night and maybe start doing programming? And I was like, okay. We'll try. And so we started doing a more structured format. We did a series on the Beatitudes when David did. And I was like, hey, what if we just open this up to anyone? Any child, 0 to 5th grade, their parents don't have to be involved in an event on Wednesday nights. Maybe mom and dad can just drop the kids off and go have a date. Like, let's just make it, a little bit of an outreach. Well, it was a felt need because our parents started coming, and we now see about 25 to 30 children every Wednesday. This past Wednesday, we had 34 in 0 to 5th grade. Here is we did a pajama party at Christmas. That's that bottom right photo. So we got in our Christmas pajamas and had popcorn and watched a Christmas movie, and it was so fun. And I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. It has been phenomenal, and I think that it's my favorite night of the week because we get 2 hours with the children. We feed them dinner, we all eat together, and then we go play, and then we engage in a lesson and a craft and an activity. But I get to just be with the kids. Sundays, it's hard to just sit with them. There's so much going on. and we turn on some music, and they paint, and then they just start to talk. They just open up, especially my older kids, and they tell me about what's hard, and they tell me how they're struggling with depression or how they got bullied at school, and we get to just be together, and I get to be with them in that space, and we get to process, and it is so beautiful. It really is my favorite night of the week. My own children come. My husband, I rope him into all kinds of activities. It's awesome. He gets lots of handyman projects here on Wednesday nights. And then we're currently in a series, I don't know if you've seen us running around in costumes, but we're doing the gospel according to Inside Out. So we have been teaching our children about emotional health and all of their emotions. And we just really want them to know that every emotion is from God. No good or bad emotion, comfortable and uncomfortable ones. And Jesus felt too, because Jesus is fully human as well as fully divine. So we've been jumping into costume and doing these little skits, and it has been so fun. The kids have loved it. We have 1 week left. And then our Sunday attendance is increasing exponentially as well. So we are busting at the seams. This bottom left corner here is a classroom that when I started was typically 8 to 10 children. So when I started in September, 8 to 10 kids. We have been averaging 15 to 18. And we, like in the past, since Christmas Eve, we're seeing this growth since Christmas Eve, really. So 15 to 18, and we just are running out of room. Oh, am I so sorry?
I just don't want to trip you up or you want to put it in your pocket.
Shoot, I do. I didn't notice it was hanging out. It must have fallen out.
And you want me to head too?
Sure. Okay, this mic.
Sorry for the interruption. But
No, it's okay. This mic is my nemesis today, but that's okay. There he goes. We're also seeing an average of 2 to 3 new families every week, which is wild. And they're coming back. It's incredible. So it's a wonderful problem to have, but we are outgrowing our current space. So we are trying to get creative about how to solve that problem, getting new furniture. We took cubbies down. We are just looking at every option possible, but we are feeling the growth and definitely needing some solutions on how to maximize our current space and then look at what we're going to do moving forward. Thankfully, the endowment and all the families who have contributed to the endowment, there was $150,000 given to youth and children. Youth used 100 of that to revitalize their space. And so there's 50 left, but I would like to get new flooring, as that linoleum is really old, get new paint, take down wallpaper, things like that. Because space matters, and so we want families with young children to walk in and feel like this is a spot for them, that it is current, it is relevant. The children's ministry is an important part of what we do here, and you can feel that and know that when you walk into a space. That was like the family room that revamped. That was part of that. Like, hey, moms who nurse and kiddos who scream during service, where do they go? And does that space feel like it's for them? And does it say that they're welcome here? And so we did a little overhaul to make that space speak to that. And then where we're going. So we're going to continue to grow that Wednesday night programming. I have tried to invite some folks from the community. There's an apartment complex down the way that a lot of those people came to trunk or treat, but I would love to start seeing those kids come to Wednesday night as well. Again, just sort of letting it know that it is a spot where parents can get a 2-hour break for free. Kids are fed, they're safe, they have a wonderful time, and parents need it. So how do we keep growing that? Easter event, so we are going to have a grand Easter extravaganza here. The children will be meeting in the activity center. We are going to build a giant greenhouse that will go along with our theme for the day about new life and our new life in Christ and how we tend to it and how we grow it. And it is going to be a blast. And then in May, children's choir. We had a children's choir at Christmas that was so precious, and we're going to do another one sometime in the spring, maybe Mother's Day. So that'll be fun. Just we're constantly thinking of ways, how do we incorporate our children into what we're doing so that we can be a multi-generational church, that children are not siloed. and they're very much a part of what we're doing. So they were included in the Christmas Eve service. There was the children's video, the children's choir. So you'll be seeing more of that, just so that they know that they're a part of what we do here. And then a county fair event. So we're gonna do another community outreach event. This is my brainchild. It might go horribly awry, but I don't know why. Maybe it's my Arkansas roots, but I have always wanted to go to like a true county fair, like what you see like in Babe, like the pie eating contest and the jam contest and and the pigs, and like you just don't see that anymore. And so we're gonna create it. So we're gonna make an event. Hopefully I'll get a petting zoo and all that stuff. But again, we'll invite our neighbors from the community, and it will just be a family event. We'll provide food and activities for the kids, and just really let our neighbors know that they are welcome here regardless, and we just want them to come have fun with us. And that's part of that community outreach piece. I mentioned the endowment fund. So how can you help? Well, first and foremost, I would say prayer. As all of you are aware, Harvard Avenue is definitely a place of refuge, I think, for a lot of people like me who come from church hurts and sort of messy faith backgrounds. And so a lot of our kids who are coming and their families have complicated faith stories, and they are just they want to know that this place is safe, and they're looking for refuge. And so I just invite you to please join me in praying that they find that here. Not just in kids ministry, but every place they walk amongst this space, and that we can be a people who invite these messy, complicated families and faith stories in. And so that is my prayer all the time. And for our kids, we have quite a few kids who are adopted. More and more are coming, and so they have lots of trauma and lots of different backgrounds, and we want to be sure that we're meeting them where they're at and loving them just as they are and providing a safe space for them as well. Kevin Howe's wife, Jody, works for Little Lighthouse, which helps children with special needs. So because of that connection, we are seeing a lot of children with special needs as well. So that's one of my next projects, is to create a calming and sensory space for them, for those who need it. So lots of different backgrounds are coming in, and it's amazing, but I just pray that we can offer what they need and be who they need. So that's the biggest thing. And then the space issue. So that's real. We are needing to buy a whole bunch of furniture to help accommodate, especially Wednesday nights. We need more tables, different types of tables, and just things of that nature, and just getting creative. So the space that we're currently in was designed for really small numbers, and it's wonderful, but it's going to stop working very soon. So trying to just figure out how to accommodate that. Okay, I think that's it. Oh my goodness, okay, I think I'm okay. Is there any questions for me before I depart? Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, everyone.